everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Valiant Effort. I have to say, Nick, that was really some killer opening credits music that we had going, and I say that not knowing what it is yet.
Yes, well, I tried my hardest to pick it out, and
I haven't heard it because we haven't decided yet.
Yep, I haven't heard it yet either. So this will be real interesting. I really better be a good choice.
So let's introduce ourselves. My name is Josh, and I am a huge Valiant Comics fan, and have been since I was probably 10 years old. I remember when I was a kid and I saw Magnus Robot Fighter number 25 on my dad's nightstand. It had a very shiny cover, and I begged him to let me read it, and he did. And it was a fantastic issue. And ever since then, I've really enjoyed Valiant Comics. Growing up, my dad would buy XO Manowar and Harbinger and Shadow Man and Magnus and Rai and Solar. And I would buy the other titles like Second Life of Dr. Mirage and Armorines and Secret Weapons, basically all the titles that got canceled first. And I just am so excited that Valiant's back. One thing about me is that I have created a timeline of the original Valiant universe, and you can find that on Greg Holland's wonderful website. Thank you for hosting it, Greg. The website where you can find it is valiantfan.com/VC timeline. And that's a 120-page timeline of the original Valiant universe. And that was the first time really Nick was introduced to Valiant Comics. You don't really know much about Valiant Comics, do you, beyond what you read in that?
I know nothing about comics, period. Everything that Josh has just told you is Greek to me. I don't know anything about it. Again, my name's Nick, and I'm not a comic book reader, period. Except for the Batman comic that I have. I don't even know what issue it is. And the DuckTales comic that I have. I read those probably when I was 8 once. And now they're crammed up in my attic somewhere.
Well, you have to dig those out. We could put them on eBay. I'm sure that those are worth a ton of money.
Probably not, because they're really ripped pages. And
So basically, every comic book you've ever read, correct me if I'm wrong, I have put in your hands, just about.
Pretty much.
So you've read some Turtle stuff.
Yep.
But not like the Eastman and Laird good Turtle stuff, but the animated Archie versions of Turtles.
No, I actually had one comic book of the original Turtles.
Oh, okay. Good.
But I don't remember anything about it other than the fact that I owned it. And I read it. I just don't remember anything about it.
And Kenshin, you've read Kenshin.
Yes, I've read the Jinshu arc of Kenshin, which Josh has.
That's right. He hasn't even read all 3 arcs, just the final arc.
Just the Jinshu arc, because everybody that's a Kenshin fan wants that arc to be animated, and it clearly will never be. So reading the manga was the next best thing, and it was amazing, and I really wish they would animate it, but that's besides the point.
So we also want to quickly talk about why we're doing this podcast and what our goals are for it. First off, I want to say that there are some really terrific Valiant podcasts already being made, and I don't want to take anything away from those guys. And in fact, I want to tell you about them a little bit in case you've never heard of them. There's Only the Valiant, which is a fantastic podcast. Those guys are terrific. They do wonderful work, and they were really the torchbearers during the lean years when no new comics were coming out. I remember when new episodes of their show would come out, and it's like, oh, at least there's something Valiant related that I can listen to, and they're fantastic. There's another terrific podcast called the Valiant Future Podcast, and they do individual issue reviews. They're part of the Cultural Wormhole Network, and they do a fantastic job. And there's also the Valiant Podcast, which is a relatively new podcast, but it's really fantastic. Those guys, they know their stuff. They know what they're talking about, and I enjoy listening to their show. We want to do something a little bit different. In 2 ways. One, we don't want to do individual issue reviews here. We want to do trade reviews. And the reason that we want to do that is because often when you hear individual issue reviews of comics, ultimately people will say either this sentence, boy, that issue was good. I can't wait for the next one. Or they'll say, boy, I really can't make a judgment call because I haven't read the full arc yet. So we're doing full arc stories and reviewing those. The other thing that we wanted to do, and me in particular, because I just wanted to talk about Valiant Comics, and Nick was kind enough to join me on this venture, which is great because Nick is an audio guy and I'm not. So he can do all the editing. But one of the things that we wanted to do is we wanted to look at this from the perspective of a diehard Valiant fan who knows the old stuff and the new stuff, who's read these books already multiple times, and then from somebody with a totally different perspective, somebody who's never really read
a comic in his life.
That's right. So can a guy who hasn't really read comics enjoy Valiant Comics? That's what we're going to find out. So now that we've introduced ourselves, I think we should dive into the first episode of Valiant Effort, where we'll be reviewing By the Sword, the first trade that Valiant released, which is XO Manowar Volume 1. Our story begins in 402 when the Romans and Visigoths are fighting in the Battle of Palencia. King Alaric, the leader of the Visigoths, orders the retreat, but his nephew Eric ignores the order. The result? Eric's father dies and his wife Deidre is captured by the Romans. Eric attacks what he thinks is a Roman legion but is actually a group of Vine, aliens who have come to Earth to plant their seedlings and abduct slaves. Eric is brought aboard the Vine ship where he witnesses Shanhara, a sentient armor, reject a Vine host. Eric and another Visigoth, Gafty, are forced to work in the gardens aboard the Vine ship. Eric defends another slave against a Vine attack, and a Vine soldier cuts off his hand. Fast forward several years, Eric, who is reduced in digits, organizes a revolt against the Vine. He and several slaves escape and work their way to the armory, where Eric bonds with Shanhara. Shanhara regenerates Eric's hand and communicates with him how to use the armor. Eric continues to lead the slave revolt. Gafty is killed, Eric has a rematch with Commander Trill. The Vine ship is badly damaged, and Eric wills himself to return to Earth. He appears in present-day Rome and is surrounded by local law enforcement. Eric easily dispatches the Italian military and learns that he has been away from Earth for 16 centuries. We are then introduced to Alexander, a Vine seedling, who learns that the Vine are on their way to Earth for invasion. Alexander volunteers to track down the armor before their arrival.
All right, so this has been the first comic that I've read in probably 20 years. And I've been very apprehensive about reading comics because it's just not something that I've done. Upon reading this comic, I actually really enjoyed it. There were a few things that I didn't expect. There are a few things that I can nitpick, so to speak, because I'm more of a movie watcher rather than a comic book reader. So there are a few things that I expected from movies to translate into here, and that didn't happen. So it's getting into that's going to change. Yes.
So were you surprised that you enjoyed it? When I handed you this book and I said, we're going to do a podcast and you're going to read a comic book, you're going to read a trade every week. What was your initial reaction to that? Were you just like, "Oh, okay, Josh"?
Yeah, it was kind of like that. I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, I was definitely willing to do it because it's definitely a new venture for me, and I was very flattered at the fact that you wanted me to read these comics, and I wanted to take on the challenge and just try something new.
So, expectation-wise. When I said to you, let's read some comics, were you expecting more of like a Superman or Batman, like a traditional superhero thing? And this, I would not describe in any way as a traditional superhero book by any means.
I kind of remember comic books having more words to them and more pictures. I know we'll get into that later. But that's kind of what I was expecting at first. So when you told me that I was going to have to read 4 books in like a week, I was like, I'm not going to have any time to do this. There's going to be no, I can't do this. This is going to be difficult.
I will qualify that there is longer stuff coming up to read,
well,
but
at least this is a good way to get me into it then.
I will admit that, I guess we're getting into it a little bit now. I will admit that this is kind of a quick read.
Yes.
And I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. I think it's very concise storytelling. I think that there are times where the writer, and that's Robert Venditti, I think there are times the writer assumes that his audience is smart enough to know what happened in between scenes.
Yeah, and that definitely comes across because that's actually the first thing that I wrote down, because I wrote down some bullet points while reading through this. And the first thing I wrote down were the quick, I call them quick cuts and transitions because I'm audio visual guy, to the next part of the story. And I gave an example here of at the very beginning when Eric's father gets impaled by, I think it was a sword or whatever, it doesn't matter. The Romans were right there in the same panel, and they're saying, "You're not gonna get away!" And there's Eric putting his father on the horse. He says, "Hold on, Dad." And then the very next panel, they're in the camp. I'm like, well, what? How did he get away?
So Nick is not familiar with the comic book concept of meanwhile or a bit later on.
No, I'm used to movie telling. The way that movies tell stories, which is they don't make exact quick cuts like that.
It says it right here, Nick, following the retreat.
Yeah, it says following the retreat, but I wanted to see the retreat.
I see.
That's in my head. But, I also understand that these guys are putting a lot of effort into their drawings and storyline that, if they were to give out every single little detail, this thing would be the American novel, and it doesn't need to be that.
Yeah, comic books are a medium that, you get typically 22 pages to tell your story. In this case, the first issue of XO Manowar is 29 pages. But comic book is a medium where you need to be more concise than other ones. But once you got past that initial shock, did you have any problems following the story?
No, not at all. Not even these quick cuts or transitions. It's not hard to follow at all. So, I mean, totally easy.
So let's go back to the very beginning. The story begins with the Battle of Palencia. Did you know that this was a real event in history?
No, I did not. I'm not a historian. I don't really know much about the Roman history. So that was another thing that...
So
yeah.
This is something that Robert Venditti did that I really like. In the first volume of XO Manowar that came out in 1992, we know that Eric is a Visigoth, but there's never really a moment in the story where he needs to be a Visigoth. He could have been a samurai warrior or an Aztec. It's not important necessarily to the story that he's Visigoth. It's just important to the story that he's a man out of time. I think, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but I think it looks like to me when Venditti started this story arc, he sat down and he said, okay, he's a Visigoth. Why? What does it mean to be Visigoth? And including neat little historical moments like this, where we actually see a real battle that actually happened. And Alaric, who is actually a real person, he's a real king. He led the sack of Rome in 410. We get to see that in one panel in the fourth issue, and we may see that later on. It's going to be really hard for me, guys, to not spoil everything for Nick. So I really think that Venditti, he wants to know what it means to be Visigoth. So I really appreciate his inclusion of that battle. One of my favorite lines of the whole comic, by the way, takes place during the battle. Eric says to his troops, "Let's show them what we're made of." And the soldier says to him, "What we're made of is all over the ground."
That line was great. I loved that line. I actually really liked the subtle humor that was in the comics.
Another great line during that battle is Eric is fighting and he yells at one of his other soldiers, "Patience, I can only kill one at a time."
Yeah, that was as he's like got one like his sword stuck in someone. That was cool. The other line I really like is when they're going after what they think is the Romans, but it's the aliens, and Eric. The one of Eric's subordinates wants them to go back to the camp and get reinforcements, and Eric just yells out, "Charge!" And then that same guy goes, "Or we fight now."
So this book takes a big turn, doesn't it? It starts off and it's a historical drama, and then all of a sudden there's aliens.
Yeah, I did not expect that. I was like, "What? Aliens? Okay, sure, I'll go with this."
So yes, this book is starts off as historical drama, and all of a sudden it's a sci-fi book, and he's abducted, and his whole world is changed completely. In the next issue, we get to see them on the alien ship. We're introduced to Shanhara, which is the armor. We're introduced to the Vine a little bit, and we're introduced to the ship, the society that they've created, and a little bit to their religion as well. So, what do you think of the Vine?
First of all, I didn't know that they were called the Vine. I just I didn't know that they had a name. I just keep calling them aliens, and that's probably what I'll keep accidentally doing. I'll try to say Vine when I can, but so looking through my notes here, I had I kind of understood like the text bubbles for the alien speak is all in black and it's kind of like blocky, and I didn't know that was like a way of the creators showing that they're speaking in their own language, but it's translating.
Okay, so here's the thing in comics: whenever a comic, whenever a text bubble begins with what are they called? They're not
brackets.
They're brackets. They're not parentheses. They're
these things. I don't know these things.
These things that are on your keyboard here,
right above the comma and the period.
So if you hit Shift, comma, or Shift period, please email us with what the true answer is.
Yeah.
Anyway, anytime a sentence.
What is our email?
Our email is this is so new to us. It's valianteffortpodcast@gmail.com. That's right. We have an official Gmail account. Watch out.
Yep.
So anytime,
we worked hard to get that.
Anytime a text bubble begins with those symbols, that means that it's being spoken in another language.
Okay.
Not necessarily alien, sometimes Italian.
Okay.
Which happens a little bit later on.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. And then about maybe 2 or 3 pages later, one of I think it was Gafty that said, like, "I don't understand what you're saying," or something. I'm like, "Oh, well, you could have said that earlier." So I was thinking in my head. And then also, this is some of my nitpicking right here. For whatever reason, my mind went this way. Why do all aliens, and no matter what medium you're in, like books, movies, comics, whatever, why do all advanced aliens have 4 fingers?
Is that how many E.T. had?
Did he have? I
don't
know. I think he did have 4 fingers. I think so. Anyway,
so let me qualify this statement that you're making. The original aliens that Eric fought in XO Manowar were not called the Vine. They were called spider aliens. And they had what my dad referred to as spaghetti heads. Basically, they had dreadlocks that were poorly drawn, and they looked like they had wet noodles on their head. So these aliens, to me, and this is kind of a weird sentence, but these aliens to me seem a lot more realistic. Of course, an alien can look like anything.
Yeah,
But
I can understand that. It's just for some reason my mind went that direction because I was thinking, why wouldn't evolution give them 6 or 7 fingers? Why is it always 4? Because you think that if this is an advanced civilization, then they should have 6 fingers, 7 fingers, because then they'll be able to grasp more things. Why not have a third arm or a third leg? Because but whatever. Here's
one of my nitpicks on the Vine. One thing that I don't understand, and maybe a listener out there knows the answer. Every Vine alien has 6 eyes,
Yeah.
except Admiral Xylem, the head of the Vine. He has only 4.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
I don't know why that is. I never noticed it either until this was my 5th read of the story, and I never noticed that. But the Vine are very interesting. I mean, they worship plants.
Yeah. One of my questions out here. What are those egg things they're growing? They clearly worship them.
I think they're fruit.
Oh, I thought they were like people or
No,
aliens.
I think that they're an alien fruit. In the original Valiant universe, the spider aliens worshipped trees. I think that these aliens are very similar. They worship plants. They are carnivores to the extreme, I guess.
Okay.
Plants and seeds are very important to their religion.
Okay, I guess that makes sense then.
And in fact, so far to the point that the purpose that they're on Earth is they're spreading seedlings. So in the first issue, there's actually a 2-page scene where we see a Vine planting essentially an alien in their midst, and there'll be a little bit more on that later.
I kind of figured there would be,
because we have a section of our show that we're going to do. Every episode we're going to talk about some of the Easter eggs, and that
okay.
There's one right there.
Okay. Now, while reading these stories, I had the sense that Gafty would be a really, really important character. So I was getting really excited for this guy because he seems like Eric's right-hand man. Like, this guy is going to become his sidekick. And
then he died.
I was like, that actually surprised me. I did not expect that coming. I really, really expected Gafty to become like a sidekick or something. So as soon as I see him get shot, I'm like, no, you can't die. You weren't supposed to die. I liked this guy. Like, at first I was like, all right, yeah, okay, this guy seems like just a generic sidekick. But then as time went on, I started to really like him. And I was starting to agree with him too in some parts. And
I would like some of our Valiant listeners out there who are familiar with future stories to tell me how much they are snickering at what Nick is saying right now. Spoiler. Go ahead. What else?
Okay.
So he got his hand chopped off.
Yes, he got his hand chopped off.
That's pretty
dramatic.
dramatic.
Damn. These guys are serious. Like, don't mess with them.
So it is, to me, the hand chopping is a very pivotal moment in this book. Because it really said to me, this is going to be different than Valiant had been before. I mean, that certainly had never happened. And it was really, really quite dramatic. And I remember that when I originally read these, I read them as single issues, and I waited a month between each issue. And when that happened, I was very angsty about it, for lack of a better word. And then the second issue ends, and he's in the armor.
Oh yeah. By the way, I really liked the transition from, like, as soon as Eric gets his hand cut off and he goes to sleep, and then all of a sudden he wakes up to a much older Gafty. I really liked that transition.
So it says several years later.
Yeah.
How many do you think happened?
I thought, just by looking at them, it was like 3-4 years.
I felt like it was like 7. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is, but
Yeah,
it could be 3 or 4. Yeah, absolutely. More than 2. We know that.
It seems like, did they know? Because they just said several years.
Yeah. Well, if you don't have a sunset and a sunrise, I'm sure that you'd lose track.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And not knowing exactly, not knowing exactly how many really adds to that.
Yeah, and then sorry, I'm slamming my notes down on my lap here. When Eric wants to start the rebellion, he's like, tonight we're going to do this. And then Gafty's like, I'm really afraid that I've lost my warrior spirit, because I'm kind of grown accustomed to what we're doing here. I was like, I probably would have done the same thing. It's like as much as I would have hated it there, I would have probably become accustomed to what they're doing and just know that you know what, at least we're alive. I don't feel like dying to get out of here, but I don't know, maybe possibly, but I kind of was with him on that.
Well, I think it speaks to Eric's character. As you can see in the first two issues, the first issue especially, he is headstrong.
Yeah, he is.
He is really almost uncontrolled. He does his own thing, and he has no fear. I mean,
No fear.
it doesn't seem to occur to him that he could die.
Yeah.
And now he's got this armor.
Yeah.
And can he?
Well, he's been blown up a few times and doesn't seem like that phases him at all.
So, what are the powers of Shunhara, the XO Manowar armor?
He can fly.
He can fly.
He can shoot things from his wrists.
He could, yeah, but not just that. He can shoot energy weapons and missiles.
And he can make a sword, like an energy sword.
The lightning sword. It is called a lightning sword.
I'm so sorry. Energy sword, lightning sword. Oh, God.
I think it's okay. I want to talk about the lightning sword a little bit more, and then we'll get back to the armor's other capabilities. The lightning sword to me is awesome. It is so cool. And the reason that it's cool is because he's a Visigoth. Of course, he is going to create a weapon like that.
Yeah.
If he was somebody else, he would create a different kind of weapon. But of course he would create a sword. The sword is awesome. I love the sword. Every time he pulls it out, it's like, yes, lightning sword. So other capabilities, obviously he's heavily armored.
Yeah, and there was that one later on where the armor changes.
Yes, so that is stealth mode, and that's actually really impressive, Nick, to me that you picked that up, because I did not see the armor change in the fourth issue into stealth mode until, I don't know, the fourth time I read the comic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because sometimes you're reading the comic and you're just blowing through it, and then one day it's like, why is his armor different? And then I realized he's in a kind of a stealth mode. He can't be seen on radar in that scene.
Okay.
Yep.
The other thing I noticed is that in one of the panels, it was right after General Alien Man, I don't know his name, whatever, blows him up.
Commander Trill.
When Commander Trill blows him up, and he's floating in space, his armor is clearly battered. I mean, he's got a crack down his windshield, and the next panel or two after he's remembering his wife, like, oh, come back as soon as you can, the crack is gone. I don't know. Was that...
So the armor is self-healing.
Okay, so that was...
And we're going to call that a visor. We're not going to call it a windshield. He's not a car.
Did I call it a windshield? I didn't realize I called it a windshield.
So yeah, that's a big deal.
It's windshield. Does it have come with windshield wipers too? I can't see through this rain.
When there's a lot of rain, the wipers come down.
It's like go gadget wipers. Sorry, I don't mean to offend.
But we're really speaking a lot to the armor's military capabilities. Let's talk about the creepy things that it does.
Kills people?
One, it's sentient.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it is alive and it's aware.
That's so...
It has the ability to download information directly into Eric's brain.
Yeah, that was cool too. I really wanted to know what the entire Roman history was when as soon as he realizes that, oh my God, I've been sent forward 16 centuries, and he gets blasted with all this Roman history. He's like, rah!
So yes, cool. So at that time we see 4 dates. We see August 24th, 410, which is the sack of Rome, and we're going to see that again a little bit later in the story. But the sack of Rome is when Alaric, the leader of the Visigoths, invades Rome. Then we see May 29th, 1176. That's the Battle of Legnano. Then we see November 17th, 1538. That just appears to be Michelangelo
Oh yeah,
drawing on the
painting the Sistine Chapel.
yeah. So there's no really specific date to that. And then we see April 29th, 1945, and that's the day after Mussolini's execution, and that's Mussolini hanging.
Okay.
Yep. So what we're seeing is examples of the fall of Rome, and one example of Rome not being, I guess, military, but being artistic. Other abilities that the armor has, it can regrow limbs.
Oh yeah, that was for some reason I didn't expect that either. I was like, I don't know why, but I was like, as soon as I realized that Eric's arm got cut off, and then that the armor when it took him over, and it didn't put the arm on, I was like, I could have sworn that the cover showed him with two hands. Like, okay, I guess I was just imagining things, and all of a sudden he's like, hand. I got my hand back. One hand for a hand. I'm gonna get you. Whatever he says. Go ahead. Sorry.
So the armor's got some crazy abilities, and it leads me to the question: who's in charge?
Oh, good question.
Eric in charge of the armor, or is the armor in charge of Eric?
It's way too early for me to say on that part.
It might even be still too early for me to say, and I've just read the 21st issue, I think. I think that's how far that series is now. 22 maybe. So
as of right now, for me, Eric is in charge because he seems to be still being has enough freedom of will.
Yeah, the armor has taught him how to use these weapons, but it's his battle.
Right.
It's his battle against the Vine.
And it kind of just helps him along to win.
So and then there's one more ability that the armor has that to me is unclear, and I'm interested in your opinion on this. So, did the armor teleport Eric to Earth, or did he travel? Did he go faster than light?
That was one of my questions at the end. When I had originally read it, or should I say my first impression was that he time traveled from the alien Vine mothership to present day. But then as soon as he finished, he got the history lesson in that 4 seconds. He's like, I survived for 16 centuries? I was thinking, wait, did he time travel?
Well,
not time travel, but go faster than light?
Yes, yeah. So time dilation is a real thing. If you travel faster than the speed of light,
everything goes.
That's right. Yeah. The area that you left is going at a faster,
much faster rate than what you're growing
than you are. Yeah,
and that's something I've studied back in
But that leads to some very interesting questions to me. If that's the case, and I think it is, I feel like that's what happened, is that he's been traveling on this ship all this time, and then he traveled to Earth. That accounts for the time difference. If that's the case, and here's at the end we are introduced to Alexander, and Alexander is a vine seedling, and Alexander is able to communicate with the vine. They have like a hive mind. And he can communicate with other Vine on Earth, but also he can communicate with Vine in space. If they're traveling at a certain speed, faster than light, how can he communicate with Admiral Xylem at the right speed and pace?
Where's Stephen Hawking when you need him?
Is that a comic book thing that we just have to ignore? Probably.
Could be. Some other questions I'm just gonna throw out here that might just be rhetorical. What did they eat when they were on the ship? What did they drink from? Because I remember when they're like, "Oh, I'm so hungry and thirsty," and then all of a sudden the water comes down from the water sprayers, and they're just like, "Oh, it's raining." If it was me, I'd just be like trying to just gather and drink it all because I'd be dying of thirst.
One would assume that they provided them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they did, which is why it's pretty much rhetorical.
Here's a question that I have: why are the Vine carrying around their most sacred religious artifact on their ship? why would that artifact not be on the Vine homeworld? Why is it?
Maybe they're trying to.
Did they just find it?
Maybe they just found it, or maybe they're trying to travel the universe to find a suitable person to wear it, or Vine alien. Don't know. The other question I had is, why are the Vine gathering slaves? Why'd they keep going to Earth to gather Indians and Chinese and Japanese and Americans and Romans and whoever?
That's a good question. I mean, I think I know why they want slaves, because
so they could tend to the gardens.
Yeah, but I think that are all those people from 402 and just different places on Earth?
Yeah.
Or have they visited Earth many times?
Yeah, like looking at the Indian, I should say Native American.
Well, I don't think there was America yet in 402.
Well, the guy was drawn to represent a Native American.
in Canada, they say First Nation.
First Nation, okay. Or
it could be
the old Mongolians or whatever that transferred over here from Alaska down. Anyway, I saw them, and then the Chinese guy, and whatever, and that was that question. And then those are my notes on the first two books, comics.
Yep.
Whatever.
The first two stories.
First
two
yes.
issues in there. Yep.
Yep. And then let's see, going on to the third stuff here now. I'm curious to know if the Vine Priest becomes a neutral character, because he seemed to really want to see the Shanhara succeed. He was so he just wanted to see that suit of armor just work, and it finally did. And he didn't care who it went on to. He was like, "Oh my God, it found a host. Don't destroy it. We want to study this thing." And I'm curious to see if he kind of keeps his own kind from destroying Manowar, which would be kind of cool.
Well, without spoiling anything, we will see that character again.
I figured we would, because he seems like a pretty steady character. As I said earlier, I wrote here, Gafty dies? And apparently I'm 14 years old. Eric got pissed off. And you know what? I would have too. I was like feeling his rage in those next few panels. It was like, yeah, you get those people. Like, how dare you kill Gafty? He's like, yeah, get them. How dare you do that? Blow up. And he's like, yeah, you're not going to kill him.
I just have to say how excited I am that you are enjoying a comic book.
Did you notice the art seemed different on one of the pages? I tried to figure out what page it was, but it seemed like it was different. Was there a different artist at one point?
No. Carrie Nord did the entire 4 issues, which is really cool. Sometime later in Valiant, we may see different artists. Okay. He has a really distinct style. His art is beautiful, I think, for the most part. It's just gorgeous art.
It seemed like on just one page, the detail of the aliens' faces and eyes were less blocky and more rounded and polished. This picture right here. I don't know what picture this is, and you can't see us right now.
This is the page where Admiral Xylem is telling the ship to fire on Eric, and Eric teleports or travels faster than light.
Yeah, that's when he just totally disappeared, and they're like, "Where'd he go?"
Yeah, Carrie Nord's style tends to be a bit blockier. I agree with you that it's a little softer here, but it's definitely his art.
Okay, yeah. It really makes no difference. It's just something I noticed and was just curious about. And also on the very next page, I love the expression on the Japanese or Italian guy's expression at the Patricia D. Meyer Air Force Base. Look at that guy. He's like, "Duh." and like this picture right here, he's like, "What's going on?" It's like, I just love the expression on his face there.
I love the next page. The next page is when Eric crashes into the Coliseum.
Yeah.
And that is just... Oh.
And I was like, "You dick." You just broke one of the wonders of the world, the 7 wonders of the world.
This is a superhero universe. Things get
Yeah.
broken.
Yeah. I'm like, come on. Don't you know that that's historical? And then as soon as he crashes into the Coliseum, hilarious. The tourists taking his picture like, oh, look, a real gladiator, cool. I thought that was so funny. He gets out of this thing looking all cool and steamy, coming out of the wreckage. It's like, yes, I'm returned. And then there's the tourist, click, 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 like, I'm a gladiator. Really cool. And the kid with missing teeth looks like he's 14 years old, while being 7 at the same time. Part that I actually verbally said awesome to was right next when the army surrounds him, Eric, and he says, Roman pigs, the more the better. And I was like, oh snap. You army people, you are done for. Just go away. And that was the end of the 3rd book, right? I think that was.
Yeah. In the 4th issue, he's not in it as much. We get a lot more about Alexander, and we spend some time on the Vine ship as well.
Yeah,
those are sandwiching him Eric battling the Italian military.
Yeah,
and there's no contest.
The one thing I also noted, I guess his name is Alexander. You keep saying Alexander. I don't know who that is, but I'm assuming that's the guy with his shirt off.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, shirtless dude is Alexander. Yeah.
Okay.
Shirtless slut is Alexander.
Yeah. Alexander, I put here, bad guy, ? That when he answers his phone, that one panel, he really looks like David Duchovny to me from Agent Mulder from the X-Files. If you look at that picture, and then you'll totally see it in that one panel. Totally David Duchovny.
Funny thing, David Duchovny, also a sex addict.
Yes! That is true. And who are those prostitutes? And why are there 8 other people there? And I know that they are important people because of the way that they're dressed. If I'm an anime watcher, and I know when people are dressed so flashy like that, I know they're important. And I'm really interested to see what the pink-haired school uniform girl is and what she does.
So they're not important.
Okay.
You never see them ever again.
Who are these people?
So I think the point that and we're going to learn a lot more about Alexander in the coming books, but Alexander enjoys his lifestyle on Earth. He may be bored with some of it, but he likes Earth. And he likes sex.
Is he human?
He's a seedling.
Oh, that's right. You said. Well, I didn't know that at that point.
Well, that's a good question because he's a vine that has been injected with alien DNA, and then several generations have happened. So, is he more human than Vine? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question either. So he's an interesting character. He's plays a very pivotal role in the next book.
He seems like a bad guy to me, but whatever. I'll find out in time. And also, he is actually a bad guy because whoever's on the phone tells him to turn on Fox News. Like, this is a bad guy.
Nick, I'd just like to point out for our audience that
it doesn't matter.
You work in television, no. And that you used to work for Fox News.
Not the same Fox News. Just to support.
Well, what if this was a local Fox News station?
It's not.
It's not.
Not in my mind.
Nick works for NBC now.
NBC. But not
the
MSNBC.
More you know. Not MS, which is honestly equally as bad as Fox News.
And I agree. I agree. But we're not getting into that.
Yes, we're not going to talk politics in this episode. We're probably going to talk politics a little bit later on in some of the other stuff.
Okay.
So
I guess that's a spoiler.
So those are my thoughts on this.
I'm just going to finish my list here.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I got half a page left. That's okay. We've already talked about this, but I'm just going to say this. humans are aliens, or I mean, is it like MIB the movie, with Will Smith, or are they crab people from South Park? It's like that surprised me. And seriously, the very last few panels, the Vine are from Earth. What? Their quote is, "It's rare for them to return home." Or what? That I was like, interesting. I want to see this play out.
I think they were saying something different there.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, then, okay.
To me, the important line at the end is when Alexander says, "The Vine have been caretakers of Earth for centuries." Caretakers, like how involved are these seedlings in the history of our planet? Are they a secret society? We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm just going to ramble off the last 5 questions I have here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which some of them have already been answered, but I just find them funny. I ask, who is this Agent Mulder? Why does he care about the suit? How does he know about it? How did aliens track Eric to Earth? They said they logged him. They logged the suit, but how the crap did they do that? GPS? No, they can't do that. And what business does Agent Mulder have to attend to at the very last panel? I'm going to keep calling him Agent Mulder, even though I now know his name is Alexander, but that's how I referred to him when I wrote down my notes, because he looks like Agent Mulder from the X-Files.
And a lot of your questions, I think.
And Agent Mulder was all about finding out if aliens existed.
Yeah, that's true.
So the truth is out there.
And I think a lot of your questions will be answered in the next volume.
I figured they would be.
Which is not what we're going to read next. There's something in comics that I kind of want to introduce you to. It's called decompression.
Yes.
And one of the complaints that I remember from the fan boards when these issues came out is that these comics read really fast.
That they did.
And yeah,
I like that though, but I'll explain that in a minute.
So decompression is something that's happened in comics lately, where in 1960, 1970, it took a half hour, 45 minutes to read a comic, and now it takes about 5 to 10.
Yeah,
and so that makes some people angry because they worry that they're not getting their money's worth. I have some arguments in support of the current way that comics are now. One, I personally, and this may be sacrilege, but I personally have a difficult time reading comics from the 60s and 70s. Not because they take so long to read, but they repeat themselves so much.
Are they like talking to themselves all the time?
Yeah, there's thought balloons where they're saying what they're doing. There's text boxes that are telling the reader what they're doing. And instead of relying on the art to tell the story. And I think that now that writers of comics know how good artists are. There's a lot of blank panels in this comic where there doesn't need to be words. We know what's happening. We know that when Eric's suit is changing, that he's entering stealth mode. We know that Eric is crashing into the Colosseum. We don't need words to describe that. The picture is describing that. I also think that comics are written differently than they used to be. Comics were written single issue format, and now comics are written for trades. And that's part of the reason why we're approaching this podcast through trades. You often hear the sentence, well, it will read better in the trade. As opposed to as opposed to an individual issue. It's a longer storytelling structure to me, and I just like it more. Not because it's faster and because I can move on to the next thing. I just think it's prettier. I think the art is prettier. There's more happening. Venditti also, I've heard him say that he went out of his way in this volume to not have text boxes, to let the art and the dialogue carry the story, and not Eric's internal monologue. And it's fine for me. Here's the other thing. When I was first driving, gas cost $1.25. That's how much comics cost at the time. If we look outside the window right now, gas is $3.65, I think, $3.70. These comics cost $3.99 a piece. The average price for a comic is $3.50. So I think that the price of comics going up has been very consistent with normal inflation. So the argument that you're getting less and you're paying more doesn't necessarily work with me, because I think you're paying the same.
That makes sense. For me, I being a new reader to comics, I was a little scared about being overwhelmed with a lot of reading that I just wasn't sure if I was going to be interested in. So it was nice for me to just have a nice kind of a brisk read.
So every episode, I think we're going to do a little segment about Easter eggs, the little hidden gems in the comics that I know Nick probably didn't pick up at all.
Hey, you never know. I might have seen something without even realizing it.
So when Nick is a really nice guy, and
you suck.
And when I wrote the Valiant timeline, Nick was one of the few people who actually read parts of it.
Yeah, and that's actually what got me into Valiant, was reading that. And I'm really excited for, I forget his name.
So that's what I'm getting to.
Gilead, or whatever is Gilead.
So when Nick read my timeline, he said, the Eternal Warrior.
Yes.
Gilad, or Gilad, however we pronounce him. He is the character I'm most excited about. So, did you see him?
I have no idea. I don't know what he looks like.
So he was in this book in 2 panels.
I'm not actually surprised about that, because I know he goes through time everywhere.
And there he is right there. He's on page 5 in panel 2 and 3.
That's him talking?
That's him talking.
Yes, my king.
And you can recognize him by the scars.
Nice!
The 3 scars on his face. So that is a neat little moment.
Wow. He seems like such a minor character in those.
Yeah. No, it's really neat that Venditti threw him in there like that.
It's so cool.
Because they don't say his name at all. You can only recognize him by the scars, and even then, that needed confirmation. So that's one of our Easter eggs. The other one, there's not that many in here. If you know of any more, please feel free to email us.
Or Twitter, or Facebook, or whatever else.
We don't have Facebook.
Okay, don't Facebook us.
The vine seedling.
That he tried to eat?
No. The baby.
Oh, yes, that thing.
So the baby's name is Avagus. And Avagus in Gothic language means child hostage. It's a great name. I thought it was really cool. Why? First of all, why would that be a real thing? That would be the name of a baby. But
that's pretty cool.
Next episode, there will be a lot more Easter eggs. Just letting you know.
And I probably won't pick up on a single one of them until he tells us.
So now it's time for the part of the show where we get to be very judgmental and rate things, I guess. So every show, we're going to pick our favorite cover of the issues that we read. Nick, what's your favorite cover?
I like issue number 3 cover. Yes, when he is being consumed, I guess, by Shanhara. Whenever it's just taking him over. I like that picture.
That's a great cover. It's not the one that I picked, but I'll show you right now why that's a great cover. That cover is an homage to XO Manowar number 5 of the original series.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yep. So
that's cool.
That's a great cover because of that very reason. That's one of my 4 finalist covers.
Oh.
Certainly. Yeah. No, that's a great choice. Great choice for a cover. The artist is Jelena. Oh, she's got a complicated name. Djurjevic. So
Sorry if we butchered your name.
yeah, I'm sorry. You're never gonna listen to this anyway. Uh,
If you do, please email.
so two other covers that I want to give honorable mentions to. Before I tell you what my favorite cover is, the QR variant cover of the first issue
I like
is
that one, too.
fantastic. I mean, what an innovative way to get people excited about the new comics. It's great.
I really thought that was a really cool idea.
Yeah,
And why haven't people capitalized on that more?
Valiant has done 3 others since, but nobody else has. It's a brilliant idea. I hope they do more. And actually, it would be really cool if you created more QR tags and you put it up against that cover, and there's new dialogue as the story progresses.
yeah.
You should do that. Another cover that I really liked is the second printing cover by Arturo Lozzi. It's the gatefold. No, it's the gatefold cover. The gatefold means the 2-page cover.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And the reason that I really like that cover is purely personal. 2 years ago, I got to meet Arturo Lozzi, and he signed my 4th printing cover of that, which is the black and white version of that. The guy is immensely humble and kind, and it was a pleasure to meet. And it's a great cover. But my favorite cover is the cover to issue number 1. Just the regular cover by Asad Ribic. And the reason that's my favorite cover, first of all, it's beautiful. Ribic is a fantastic artist. He's currently doing The Mighty Thor right now, and you should check that out because his comics are beautiful. But this was the first image that I saw solicited by the new Valiant comics. And so to me, that image is a sign of new Valiant and the future of Valiant. And I still look at it and I still get excited about new comic books. And that's why I picked that as my favorite comic.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yep. So now we're also going to talk about if we like the book or not and if we would recommend it.
Okay. I will give it a thumbs up. I really enjoyed it, and it's definitely a good, easy read for beginner comic book readers, someone wanting to try something new. If you're not sure if you're going to like the story or not, I mean, totally pick it up. It won't take a lot of time to read. I mean, I know this whole time decompression stuff, but it's really a good way to ease your way into it, see if it's really something for you, and it is actually very entertaining.
I also give the book a thumbs up, of course. I feel like that seems to be a given. I will not like everything, I promise, but at first it's going to seem like I like everything. The writing by Robert Venditti, the art by Kerry Nord, even the colors. Moose Ballman did the colors. The colors are fantastic in this book. It is a great comic. The trade for the first volume is only $9.99, only $10. It's a tremendous value. You totally get your money's worth. I've already read the trade 3 times since I bought it. I may read it again tonight when I go home. It's great. I love it. Read this book. I can't recommend it enough. One other segment that we kind of want to do every week is I want to suggest some further reading. Beyond Valiant Comics, I want to take a particular author or artist and just recommend something that I've really enjoyed of their work. Robert Venditti is a fantastic author. He's done some great stuff. Surrogates is really fantastic. I really recommend you guys read his run on Demon Knights. Demon Knights is a title by DC. Was a title by DC. They've canceled it. But his run was fantastic. When he first started doing it, Bernard Chang was doing the art. Bernard Chang is a Valiant alum as well. He started on issue number 16. The whole Demon Knights comic is fantastic, and I really recommend reading it.
You can also buy an audiobook. Don't. This is not a true statement.
Comic books in audiobook format are terrible. Also, Braille comic books are also very bad. I think that about wraps it up for our first episode. I want to say that I have a cold right now, and so my voice is going to sound different as the series continues, which is okay because if you look at old episodes of The Simpsons, they sounded different then too.
And we'll also be drawn different too in a few episodes.
I also want to say how comfortable we are recording this podcast. We are recording this podcast in the store in which I work. It is a bedding and recliner store, and we're sitting in fantastic recliners. No other podcast in all of the land has hosts that are more comfortable than we are. Our next episode is going to be a focus on the first volume of Harbinger, which is Omega Rising. I'm passing it over to Nick right now. Nick has seen, this is his really...
so many words.
This is really his first time even holding it.
Tebow!
That's what we're going to do with Nick is he's not going to...
This coffee is awful.
He's not going to know anything that happens until I hand it to him.
Everything's coming up, Millhouse.
So stay tuned for our next episode where we...
There's always money in the banana stand.
He's reading the text.
Obama is destroying this country.
You can find us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is VE Podcast. You can email us. Our email address is valianteffortpodcast@gmail.com. And you can find us on our terrible website that we don't want to pay for, which is wordpress.valianteffortpodcast.com. And with that, I think that we should sign out, and we're going to kick it to this really awesome music that we picked to end the credits that we haven't decided on yet.
Yeah, this is really great music. Just listen to that. That is so nice and smooth or hard or rocky or alternative or just really nice blend.
Thanks for listening, guys. Thank you.